Welcome back. This is episode 15 of the Colossal Color Showdown, and we're going to continue taking a good look at 9 indigo colors. If you remember from the last episode, we started looking at indigo, and in this episode we are going to look at the gradated wash, the salt technique, and how they mix with colors. First of all, we have the gradated washes, and I have to say Daniel Smith really surprised me when I put it down. When I put some water to extend the color, the pigments just ran across the page, and you can kind of see that speed with these vertical lines going through. It was a really active color. And Daniel Smith stood out for that because the other colors didn't run across the page as much as the Daniel Smith one did. A few colors I wouldn't recommend doing a lot of gradated washes with. One is the core, because as you can see, it's not 4 clear stages. It's just the dark or the light, and that's it. Whereas if you look at Winsor Newton, I add water more and more in 4 different stages, and you can see the difference in 4 stages, and that's important because that means that Winsor Newton is going to give you way better control of gradating that wash than something like Core will. Same problem with Sennelier, Jackson's, and in the Indigo with Cass Art. They are better than the Core one. You can see the 4 stages just about, but it's not as well defined as other brands. The brands that are going to give you the best control are Mission Gold, even though it's not blue, and we talked about that in the last episode, Schmincke and Winsor Newton, closely followed by the Holbein. In terms of the salt test, again, as always, very varied range of reactions, which is in the case of indigo is not surprising because each brand has its own mix of pigments and they're all slightly different. The most active out of the lot was Schmincke, and can I just say I love the texture that the Schmincke one has produced. It really plays well on this huge variety of value you can get from the colour. The other brands that reacted well are the Jackson's Art, Cass Art and Sennelier's one. But for me personally, I think this is the nicest texture out of these 4. The other colours didn't react so much to the salt, with the Daniel Smith one and Winsor Newton one being the least reactive. Core does react somewhat more to the salt. However, I don't really like this kind of texture as much as I like this texture. But I think it is a personal preference and what you're looking for in terms of texture. This texture might be useful for something for someone out there. As for how well these indigo colors mix with other colors, I chose 4 colors to mix with. The normal primary colors, the yellow, magenta and cyan. And then for its complementary, because it's a reddish blue, a yellowish orange is the best complementary color. They are all pretty even in their tinting strength. The only big difference that I had was with the Mission Gold, and that's not a surprise because as I spoke about in the last episode, the Mission Gold is a completely different hue to everyone else. Everyone else is some sort of dark blue color. This is pretty black. So the colors you get from mixing the Mission Gold's indigo with any other color is going to be like if you mixed a neutral tint with that color. It's just going to be like a blacker version of those colors, whereas all the other indigos create a much richer color mixes that also stays pretty vibrant. And if you're looking for a nice olivey green, sap green range, try mixing your indigos with your yellows to see what kind of colors you get, because you get some really nice results with them. So that's it for indigo. It was really interesting for me personally to look at different brands of indigo. It was a surprise that only one brand used synthetic indigo, even though it was completely understandable why they did that. My personal favorite in terms of hue is still the Schmincke's indigo, because it is closest to what I would think of as indigo in Japan. However, It does have some light fastness issue because of the synthetic indigo not being very light fast. So if you want a more light fast version of a very similar hue, then I would recommend a Daniel Smith. In fact, I would recommend a Daniel Smith over Schmincke just because it's pretty close in hue, but it's going to be a lot safer for you in terms of light fastness. The one color I wouldn't recommend as indigo is the Mission Gold's indigo. I'm sure it's a nice color, I'm sure it'll be useful in something, but to me personally, it's not an indigo. If you are looking for a more greenish indigo, which is what most brands are going for, then I would recommend something like the Holbein over the Sennelier, Jackson's and Cassatts, because these three brands suffer from a little bit of gloopiness, and over the Winsor & Newton, which are a little bit chalky. Even though they're not opaque chalky, it just has this chalky look to them compared to the other colors. And also over the core, because it's very, very textured, it's quite hard to get an even smooth coverage with the coarse one. So in summary, go for the Daniel Smith one if you want the more traditional Japanese indigo, the indigo that leans more towards the red side, and then go for the Holbein one if you want one that is a little bit more turquoisey green shade. So which color was your favorite, and has your favorite changed from before seeing these two episodes? Do let me know in the comments down below. As always, I have listed where you can get hold of these colors down in the description below. So if this video has inspired you to try a color, do check out those links. In next week's episode, we're going to be covering sap green, which I'm very excited about. And in the meantime, I hope you have a wonderful week, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!